Hey guys, so back to last Epoch for a little bit, and I decided to try to make some builds here, and today we're going to go over my Elemental Nova Self-Cast Spark Charger build. So basically, yeah, Elemental Nova Self-Cast with Fragment of the Enigma is probably the majority of the damage we're doing, and then with the Elemental Nova, I decided not to go for the channeled Elemental Nova, and I guess a couple of reasons, but mainly once you get enough cast speed, then you actually do cast more Elemental Novas than you would while you're channeling, and then you don't have to deal with the annoying channeling thing where it's like you have mana problems. And also, since I'm using the unstable core, you know, it's kind of nice to be able to take advantage of the 300% increased area, and since we're casting so fast, that's pretty much like once every second or so we do get this big AoE. Alright, so let's run some monoliths, and basically right now at 300 corruption, and this is in standard because where like all my gold is pretty much, and it's very hard to get items in League, so anyways, my corruption is, this is like the highest I have in standard apparently. And yeah, I think this build though probably going to cap out at what, 300 to 500, maybe 600, but there is, you know, some problems with the build we can go over. But so basically when we're mapping, all we do is just spam our Elemental Nova and then just flame rush around, or not flame rush, yeah, flame rush around, and then I am using Ice Barrage for additional single target damage because all of these are going to be applying spark charges. And since we don't have any mana problems because our Nova is 0 mana, basically I just keep it on auto cast the whole time I'm playing, and then yeah, it kind of works out pretty good. Alright, so you can see, I don't know, this build for some reason really reminds me of playing Smite on, what do you call it, PoE 1, just because the way the Smite kind of looks really similar to, I mean, not the colors, but like the kind of big AoE, right? It kind of looks similar to the, what do you call it, Elemental Nova skill when you're playing it like this, so kind of interesting. And pretty much, I mean, clear is pretty good. It's not as good as, how would you say, Frostclaw Elemental Nova, right? Like, nothing's going to beat that, but, I don't know, it is kind of fun to play this, like, especially when you get, like, lots of area and a lot of cast speed. It does definitely feel pretty fun to play, and, I don't know, yeah, pretty good for, like, 300 to, like, 500 corruption farmer, I would say. Alright, so we got a boss here. Is this a boss? Oh, it's not the boss. Oh, it's one of these things. Sorry. So let's go and clear the monolith, and then we'll go try a boss. Like, the single target is probably going to be the weakest part of this build, I would say. And I think you could do some other things, like if you used Lightning Blast as like a single target thing instead of just doing what I'm doing with just basically just only doing the Elemental Nova and then using Ice Barrage for some extra damage, then you could probably get a little bit more damage, I think. But I wanted to keep it just pretty much just hold down Elemental Nova type of build, and so that's why we're doing this. Alright, so let's see how this goes. Hopefully it doesn't give us too much trouble, and I think we can tank this. Yeah, at 300 corruption, not a problem. You can just kind of stand here, tank this, and we do want to be using our, how would you say, Flame Rush, because we do need to get the Lightning Aegis buff whenever that gets removed. And you can see the single target, not really anything too special, right? Alright, but, you know, it did take him down, and wow, I actually did get it. The perfect blessing. Wonderful. Alright, so let's go over the skills. I think starting off with Elemental Nova, and first of all, like, why are we not going for the channeled version? Because I think a lot of the self-cast Elemental Nova builds usually tend to go for this channeled version. And channel version is 5 novas per second, so it's pretty good, I guess, when you don't have a lot of cast speed. But if you do have enough cast speed, and you can cast around 5 novas per second or more, then the channel version just kind of doesn't really make sense to use. So you see right now my base cast speed 230-ish%, and then when we have all of our combat buffs, we're up to about 350-ish or 330, 350% increased cast speed. And with this, we're actually able to pretty much get more elemental novas than the channeled version. The channeled version also does come with a few downsides, with less area of effect, and then also a pretty big mana cost, and then we would actually have to invest in mana sustain if we did go for the channeled version. So going for the non-channeled version does have some nice benefits where we don't have to worry about mana. And since our Nova is costing 0 mana, we can also use things on the passive tree, like from Rune Master. So every 3 times we use a skill that has 0 mana, we get a burst of mana and ward. It has a 3-second cooldown, but this is pretty much enough to sustain all of our mana costs, even if we're spamming Ice Barrage or doing our Flame Rush with the Static Orb, which is also costing about 50 mana. So I think it's actually pretty good. And then also, like mentioned, we are using Unstable Core, so we do get that nice big AoE every 6 or so casts, and since we're casting so fast, that does happen pretty often. Okay, so the tree basically is just go get the range, and then get the spark charges, and then reduce mana cost to 0. And after that, I think there's a couple of things you can do. So if we get any kind of more damage, then that's also going to be applying to the sub skills we apply with this elemental nova. In this case, it's going to be the spark charges. There is a couple that are on hit. This doesn't apply to damage with hits, I believe. So something like this Shattered Nova, which is quite a lot of more damage. This is more damage with hits, and I believe this doesn't actually apply to the sub skills. It has to be some kind of this kind of generic more damage. So this actually doesn't even apply to the spark charges, and so you can kind of customize it. So right now I'm doing sort of a hybrid where I am actually putting a bit of damage into Elemental Nova, and the reason is that, well, there isn't really much else, right? First of all, we could go to overcharge and get this generic more damage. So 40% of the time, our spark charges are going to be doing 100% more damage. So this actually works pretty good as well. But like gameplay wise, I think you do want to have your Elemental Nova to actually do damage, because spark charges have a delay. And when you're mapping, if all of your damage is delayed by, how many seconds is this? 1 second. If all of your damage has a 1 second delay, not going to feel that good, right? Also, leech is kind of a problem. I notice that since I'm casting so fast, my leech actually just cannot keep up with how fast I'm casting. Right. So getting more damage on Elemental Nova did kind of help to fix that, and also then we can use our Elemental Nova to pretty much just kill all of the white and magic mobs and maps. And then these spark charges are just there for the rare or unique monsters to give it a little bit of extra damage. So you can play around with this. You can cut this area out here. And if you do go for Shatter Nova, you are going to need Ignite Chance somewhere so we can benefit from all of the more damage multipliers. So I just got it over here on the actual skill tree. This is enough to actually keep it up 100% at the time, or you can get it on your gear or the mage passive tree, whichever one you want, but just make sure you're getting all 3 of these elements. We sometimes do get frozen from the Ice Barrage, but it doesn't happen that often, so it's pretty much like a 90% more damage. Anyways, so if you do choose to go for the overcharge route, you are going to have to get rid of some of these points, unless you have more points to Elemental Nova, and you can actually get all the way up to like, what, 35, 36 Elemental Nova, so that wouldn't be a problem. But anyways, that's something you can play around with. I think there's a lot of different ways to run it. Okay, so after that, we have a couple of combat buffs we're using. So first one is going to be the casting speed while you have Lightning Aegis, and the way we get our Aegis is going to be Flame Rush, casting Static Orb, and then Static Orb gives us the Lightning Aegis. And I probably should kind of fix this tree up. I don't know why this had 1 point removed. This should be 4 points. Static Orb gives us the Lightning Aegis, and when we're doing bossing, pretty much so we have our Ice Barrage. I just keep it on autocast, right? It's simple. And then we're just attacking, and you can see we don't have lightning aegis, so you can just either flame rush and then you get your buff, or sometimes it's kind of not really possible to flame rush in the boss fight, mainly just due to positioning, like especially in like T4 Jorah. So you can also just manually cast Static Orb every now and then and keep up your buff, right? So that's usually what I'm doing most of the time. And when you do take a big hit, you are going to lose your lightning aegis, so you have to be mindful of that a little bit. And I'm pretty much just attacking, and then I'll just cast my Static Orb. If I take a big hit, then I'll just cast it again, and pretty much just kind of randomly casting it every 3 seconds or so. That seems to work out pretty good. Okay, so also with our Ice Barrage and Static Orb, we are making them cost over 40 mana because we want to make them apply Spark Charges with the Arcane Current. So skills that cost over 40 mana are going to be applying Spark Charges. So that means our Ice Barrage hits are all applying Spark Charges, and then our Static Orb is also applying Spark Charges. And this one is 50 mana because when we cast it with the Flame Rush, you can see it's only going to be costing 80% of the Static Orb mana. And that means if we had 40%, if we had our Static Orb costing 40 mana, then it wouldn't actually be applying Spark Charges when we cast it with Flame Rush. So you actually have to get up to 50 mana on Static Orb to make it apply its, cost 40 mana when you cast it with the Flame Rush. Okay, so this actually works out pretty good because when we're mapping, a lot of times we can just cast some Static Orbs and then Flame Rush, and these are all going to be applying Spark Charges, and that's enough to pretty much clear screens. You do actually have mana problems, so you will have to cast your Nova every now and then, but you can actually just kind of clear a lot of the map with just the Static Orb Flame Rush kind of combo. Rest of the Flame Rush tree, kind of do whatever you want here, but these nodes here are pretty nice value. And then let's go over to Static Orb. We kind of already went over this, but it's just pretty much get the Lightning Aegis, and that's pretty much it. We also do want the Orbit, I guess. Okay, so Flame Ward, it's just get extra charge. You can kind of do whatever you want here. I'm going into a little bit of extra damage. You could go into the haste if you want. And then, just get the damage reduction pretty much. And then for Ice Barrage, so since more damage multipliers on the actual skill will be applying to the sub-skills, I think this should work for the Spark Charges that Ice Barrage is applying. Can't really test it in game that much, but anyways, just getting the more duration, fire rate, and then we go over here to the Ice Shield. So there's not really much else you want to do on Ice Barrage, so might as well just get this less cold damage taken and more global cold damage. The global cold damage is going to affect our Nova, not really the Spark Charges, but the cold damage that the Elemental Nova does. So you can see when we have our Nova up, our Ice Barrage up, our Nova is doing quite a bit more damage. And also, since, we are taking the node in Elemental Nova, where it gives us, 9% increased cold damage taken, the Ice Shield does kind of counteract that sort of downside. Okay, so looking at the gear, what is this, right? Every single item, pretty much a unique item or a set, and actually not that bad in terms of getting your resistances. You can see I only actually have resistance on my fragment. I guess also on the ring. So yeah, it is pretty, gearing's kind of weird. There's so many unique items you want to use. But first of all, let's start over from the very top, I guess. So Crest of Unity, I'd say this could be cut out. Although, the Tri-Elemental Nova is very nice. And then the plus levels you can get is pretty nice as well. And then the less damage taken from, these kind of shocked or ignited enemies is also pretty nice because it's built kind of squishy. So getting a lot of levels, and then we just want to put intelligence on the LP and then spell crit, or you can go for levels for Elemental Nova as well. Okay, and then the unstable core. This one, yeah, pretty much a no-brainer. I think if you're going to be playing this kind of self-cast Elemental Nova, I guess it's not super important because, if you are only relying on Spark Charges, then it does kind of lose some value, right? Because the added spell damage, I'm pretty sure that doesn't apply to Spark Charges. And I guess the increased elemental damage is nice, and also the, +1 is plus 3 levels to Elemental Nova. So Okay, and then our fragment, you know, I mean, this is kind of like the band-aid solution for a lot of builds to make them viable. Anyways, yep. Okay, and then for the wand, decided to go for the Mad Alchemist Ladle. Because we have a lot of added damage already for the spark charges, getting some more damage multipliers seems to be the way to go. Also, it does give quite a bit of cast speed. Alright, and then for one of our rings, we're going to need a Phantom's Grip because you can see we are a crit build, but my spell crit chance is not that bad, 65%. I mean, it's kind of low, and with really good gear, you can get up to about 100%. Right, and basically, originally I wanted to play with 2 Phantom Grips, right? So I'd have 2 of these kind of rings, and then that would be easy, 100% crit chance. But ward generation just was really bad, and I had to actually add one of these. And I tried a bunch of different rings, and you can see also, because we are using heart, my life, 1600 life, so, or 1600 life, so not super high, and you could push to like 2.5k life if you got rid of all this cast speed stuff and then just went pure you know, health idols, you know, 5% increase health and then flat health. Then your heart is probably going to be giving you more value because we have already tons of ward retention, like 600 ward retention. So that's something you could probably do, and maybe then you don't have to use this ring. But as it stands now, is gameplay didn't feel good without this kind of like chance to gain ward on hit. Okay, so that is the rings, and then for the belt, I decided to go for Strand of Souls. The only reason why is just because I want the ward on kill, and you could probably replace this with a rare belt, and then on the Elemental Nova, you can add some points into the ward on kill here, and then get that, and that should be enough just to kind of replace the Strand of Souls. But yeah, this belt, pretty nice in terms of just, you know, ward retention, that kind of stuff. So that's why we're using it, but not really 100% needed. Same thing actually for Frostbite Shackles, because we already have so much ward retention. You can see this is only giving like 100-ish ward retention. I guess also my cold res is kind of low. Before I was actually playing mainly with these idols that had cold resistance, so like cast speed with lightning aegis and cold resistance. Then yeah, I guess at some point it wasn't really that much value because I already had so much ward retention. Figured we should get more ward generation instead, and then swapped over to the more sort of life kind of setup. Okay, so yeah, you could probably not even run these gloves. And then also the boots, not super mandatory, but the only reason I'm using these is because I have so many unique items, it's actually hard to cap my resistances, and these boots are pretty nice because it's like, what, 3 resistances? And ideally, you do run the Blood of the Exile for the extra int, but anyways, resistances were kind of annoying and probably going to be impossible without some other kind of item. Maybe if you got a rare belt, pretty much, then that would work, but anyways. And then we're just using the Twisted Heart. So for the idols, it's all just cast speed with Lightning Aegis, and then you can get your resistances here, or get health. Then we just get health idols, and we do want to get 300 mana, because I do think it's good to use these spell crit, and then double if you have 300 mana. So this is, instead of 54% crit, it's 108% crit. Spell crit, which is pretty important because, you know, getting our crit cap is going to be kind of hard, I think. Oh yeah, we didn't go over the amulet. Amulet is pretty much here. This is like another band-aid we're kind of slapping on the build, and we just use it to get our resistances, and we do need to get armor shred here. It doesn't need to be exalted armor shred, but this is like the only one I found. Ideally, you have crit multi or spell crit chance on the T6 or T7 affix. And then, yeah, pretty much this is just the band-aid, right? You see Fizz Necrotic gets fixed by this, and then we get some Void, although I don't really need the Void. I guess, yeah, we do. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's the amulet. The idols, let's go over the blessings, and, oh yeah, so if you do get frailty on the amulet, then you can skip frailty on the blessing. See this one, wait, where is it? Yeah, here. We have a chance to apply frailty on hit. And then we have all resistances, crit multi, shred lightning resistance, and then cold resistance from Herod. So that is pretty much the build. We go over the passive tree. Okay, passive tree, this is, I mean, not really much to say here, right? Just get all the int and the cast speed and the crit multi. And for Sorcerer, basically, this is like your typical lightning sorcerer tree, right? And some points that you don't really need, I would say, is like there's 1 point here. You probably do want to get up to the 8 point bonus, and then we don't need this cast speed stuff. This is kind of mandatory, but and then also this kind of movement speed, cast speed. This one also not super important. And then in Spellblade, the 5 points here is pretty nice because of the decay threshold. I mean, we are stacking int, so might as well get a little bit of benefit here, and then get a little bit of int as well. In Rune Master, this is pretty much, I think you pretty much want everything in Rune Master, right? And yeah, anyways, so that is pretty much the build, guys. You can go check out the link on the Last Epoch tools link. Yeah, let me know what you think. It's pretty fun to play, but it does definitely feel very weak compared to the more meta builds, right? Anyways, maybe that'll change in the patch and it'll be buffed or something, who knows? But definitely very fun playstyle. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.